Remembering the Children is a 22-minute documentary that aired this week at the Phoenix Film Festival. It is about the Rapid City boarding school in South Dakota that first opened in 1898. I'm joined now by Emmy-nominated filmmaker and executive director of the project, Jim Warne. Hi, Jim. Welcome to our studio.
Hi, thank you for the invitation.
I want to jump in here. Tell us the journey of how this film came to be.
It's been a big journey of a lot of volunteers in the community, and it started with the elders that kept the story alive of the children because they weren't identified before. So it's wonderful the elders kept bringing it up at the hospital where it is now, Oyate Health, the new hospital. It's on the grounds of the old boarding school. So it's nice that now those children are being remembered thanks to those elders that never stopped sharing that story so we could make sure that we identify those children.
Speaking of elders, I understand you have a very personal connection to this film. Tell us about who you got to interview.
Yes, it was an honor to interview my mom. She's my star a lot in my documentaries that I make, but her experiences growing up on Pine Ridge and in Indian country, it was, just a good thing to have that personal experience that she can share. And of course, my brother and I were brought up with these realities in terms of these stories that she told and sharing those stories so that we as young men could know that and remember that, and now we're representing that in our older years.
Tell us about the team who worked behind the scenes to make this film come to life.
Well, it was only 4 of us on the film team, which was majority Lakota. So Arlo and Bobbie are also Lakota, and Randal was our non-Indian ally with cinematography. But it was a great team to work with, and the film team worked with an elder committee because we wanted to make sure there was an elder committee ensuring that our storyline was correct. We wanted to make sure the elders were happy with the final product. And my mom was one of those elders as well, so I got to work with her in that capacity. So with that, and all the volunteers, many of those that are interviewed in the film, they uncovered a lot of the documents that identified the children and then opened up, as mentioned in the film, the Pandora's box of the land issues. 1,200 acres illegally taken by Rapid City, which is now worth $29 million. So that is another issue going on, along with the new Children's Memorial that is being built, and the groundbreaking is just happening. So that's wonderful.
Aside from actually identifying these children, does this film at all look at the egregious things that these children had to face while at this boarding school?
Yes, and we share some of those stories. There's a lot of stories, like my mom had a weekly kerosene head wash at Pine Ridge Boarding School, and then Violet Ketches at St. Joseph's went through getting hit till her hands bled for not being able to speak English. So those are some of the stories. We only had 22 minutes. We hope to make a feature-length film, and using this film that's having some good success in the festival market so that we can get some funding for a feature-length film.
As I just mentioned, this film is being shown at the Phoenix Film Festival. What has been the reaction from folks who have seen it?
Well, it's been awesome. Most of the screenings have been sold out, and it's been wonderful to have the community to be able to view my work. And the Phoenix Film Festival is extra special because I was born and raised here and went to Tempe High in Arizona State. So it's wonderful to be able to share my work here in the Valley.
I'm really curious, when you're making these kinds of films, and this one in particular, who was this film made for? Was it made for Native people or non-Native people?
Actually both, because we want our Native people to have this for healing. Many people have come up after screenings and are able to share their personal stories. And sometimes it can be very painful and there's tears, but those tears are part of the healing. So our elders that experience that or have family members that experienced it, and I presented it at the conference at our American Indian Disability Summit for my work with the Sonoran Center with Disabilities. Our new Circle for Indigenous Empowerment addresses those issues, and the Phoenix Film Festival now has some of our curriculum, because I use my films for my curriculum in my university work. So it's been extra special here at the Phoenix Film Festival.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because you wear many hats. You're a filmmaker, you're, in academia. Mm-hmm. I do want to talk about the Native American Disability Summit. Yeah. Tell us about that.
Oh, it's 19 years in, and it's so wonderful. It was a result of a talking circle. So we just I do a lot of talking circles and try to indigenize the approach to academia so that we can have our community members, get that buy-in to the process. And this community group here from our talking circle 20 years ago was able to form the summit. Now we're 19 years in just last week, and it's well attended. Many programs, Indian and non-Indian, are there. So it's wonderful to be able to share the work and represent my dad, Jim Sr., who had multiple sclerosis for 37 years. So I always remember as a football player at ASU, my wheelchair section I could point to. So again, it's wonderful to represent him for my work in disabilities and represent Mom for my work in Indian country and advocacy. So it's a good life I'm having representing my parents as best I can.
We have about a minute left, but I do want to know what's next for you and the many projects that you're working on.
Well, now I'm setting up interviews to do the knee, Wounded Knee. It's 50 years since the occupation of Wounded Knee, and I have family buried in that mass grave, so it's very personal for me to represent them in a good way so they're not forgotten either. So it's great to have a platform to be able to share these stories and ability to, get opportunities to work with other wonderful filmmakers and hiring young filmmakers in Indian country and seeing them develop. It's really nice to be able to teach through the medium of film.
Well, Jim Warne, thank you so much. This film sounds amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Palamia.